Hello and welcome to the Circle Insight podcast, where we are amplifying people's voices. My name is George Ombado, the Executive Director of ACOSCA. Welcome to another episode of Circle Insight. This particular episode, we are looking at the strategies to increase the membership across the globe. How can we have as many people as possible join the credit union? With me today is Bill Cheney, the CEO and President of SchoolsFirst Credit Union in California. Thank you, Bill Cheney.
Thank you, George. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thank you. Bill, I know you're one person who is passionate about people.
Yes.
I know you always talk about people helping people.
Absolutely.
Yes, you work for the credit union. But what drives you that you're so passionate about helping people?
Well, thank you. Well, I've been working in credit unions for 37 years now, George. It's hard to believe, but I don't think I'm that old, but I guess I am. And it's always been, credit unions have always been about people helping people. It goes back to our very, very early days as financial cooperatives. And we're owned by our members. It's our job as credit union leaders to serve the members. Unlike banks, we don't have shareholders, so we don't have to take care of another group of people who expect a return on their investment. We can serve our members who are our owners, and they deserve a return on their investment. But more importantly, they deserve a credit union that's passionate about them and serving them. And I first started working at a credit union in Texas in 1987, and almost immediately you could just tell the difference. I've never worked at a bank, but I worked, prior to going to work at Security Service Federal Credit Union, I had worked for a consulting firm. So I had done projects at banks. And it was all about how do we maximize our profit? How do we be more efficient? We all need to be efficient, but it wasn't, there was never a conversation about how do we better serve our customers. When I got to the credit union, the first thing we always started with, how do we better help our members? People helping people.
Oh, good. So people helping people, but how did your life upbringing influence your thoughts about credit union is a place to be?
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you asked that question because my father was a banker, and he worked at several banks, but primarily when I was growing up, he worked for the First National Bank in Dallas, which is how I ended up in Texas. And worked hard, did a great job. The bank was successful. But again, it was about maximizing profits. I really didn't learn about credit unions until I got to college in Austin, Texas. And I joined, while I was in college, I worked for the state of Texas, the State Property Tax Board, and joined the Public Employees Credit Union in Austin, which is still there today. That was a long time ago. But that's where I first got a taste of something that's different. And even as a very low-income, hard-working college student, you could just tell that they cared about me as a person, not about me as a number or about how they could use their relationship with me to make better profits for their shareholders. And so that was part of it. And then the idea that you could work in a business that wasn't about profits, it was about people. That's what we're all about. And it's a broader purpose. It's a better mission. And we can help improve people's financial well-being. You can feel good when you wake up in the morning, when you go to work, that you're there to help people, not there to line some pockets of investors who you may never even know who they are.
So that brings us to the issue, the paradox around this is different. Credit unions are different. Credit unions are better.
Absolutely.
But how come we don't have many people? We actually have a significant number of people across the globe who are not part of credit union system.
Yes, I've been asking myself that same question for 37 years, George. And it's a lack of knowledge, I think, and visibility. It's why it's so important for us to tell our stories like we're doing here. Stories of people helping people. Credit unions are a lifeline. SACOs are a lifeline. Literally. Where else are people going to go? Especially in rural communities and lower income communities. We had a big battle several years ago in the United States with the banks wanting to tax credit unions. They're always wanting to tax credit unions, but we had significant tax reform going on in Congress. And I would ask members of Congress, if you tax credit unions, you've taxed something, you're going to get less of it, not more. If you tax credit unions, you're going to eliminate credit unions, ultimately. So if you eliminate credit unions, who's going to serve the people in your community? Who's going to serve the teachers and the firefighters and the police officers? Every person should belong to a credit union.
Okay. So with that, were you able to convince the legislators not to tax?
We won.
We won.
You won.
Yeah. Excellent.
We did. So the bill was called HR 1. It was a comprehensive tax reform. And the banks lobbied hard to tax us. There were more than 200 groups whose tax status was changed in that legislation, but credit unions were protected.
Okay. So I like the way you use your position to amplify people's voices.
Absolutely.
By indicating that the credit union will serve the minority. What advice could you give, particularly the African audience, where you find most of our credit unions are actually obliged to pay tax?
Yes, well, and that's true in many countries, that credit unions do pay taxes. Oftentimes, credit unions have preferential treatment. They pay taxes, but they pay taxes at a different rate. For example, it might be at a small business rate, which is different than the rate of a big business. My advice is you have to build that into your business model. Now, if you can influence, advocacy is so important. If you can influence your lawmakers and policymakers that perhaps credit unions do deserve preferential treatment, then that would be a huge win for credit unions. The thing about advocacy is that you can't win at advocacy. You have to build those relationships over time so that you're ready. You have to make, and credit unions are part of the community, so just need to understand, make sure that the lawmakers in your area understand that credit unions are different and why.
So that's our ability to tell our story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I know again is still a huge struggle.
Yes.
Credit unions probably all over the world are still struggling to tell our story better.
We still struggle in the United States, there's no question.
Yeah. And the continent of Africa, as you know, is a young continent.
Yes.
And often I hear people say, "Oh, I'd rather go to the bank than get served in the SACCOs." With the kind of experience that you have, what do you think we should do to attract the young people into our space?
Yes. Yeah. Well, again, it's about telling our story. I think a lot of young people don't really. They either don't know at all what a credit union is or a SACCO, that they may not have never heard of it, or they've heard of it, but they don't really understand. I know it's telling your story, but and you want to do that for advocacy, but you also want to do that for young people. It is true in the United States that the credit union membership is aging, and if we don't get young people into the credit union, you can see that path doesn't end well. You have to continue to bring in young people. We're very fortunate at Schools First that we attract a lot of young people, new school employees, right, and their family members. The average age of a new member at Schools First is 33. The average age of a member is 41. On the national level, it's closer to 50. So we have a younger membership, but it's because we also have that tight, common bond and of the school employees, and so they tell each other.
Okay.
I guess someone who's promoted advocacy for as long as I have, it's probably more important to tell the story to young people than it is to tell to the older people who are making the rules, because someday those young people are going to be making
Yeah,
millions.
yeah, yeah. And the other angle, which I like what you mentioned, the other angle is when you look at how we tell our story, particularly to the young people, if we have those numbers to go high. In our space, at times people join the credit union or SACCO with an objective of getting credit.
Yes.
Others will join with an objective of getting higher dividends.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that the same situation in your space?
Yes. So credit unions in the U.S. pay higher rates generally pay higher rates on savings than banks. You have to manage it on your P&L, on your financial statement. You can't pay unlimited dividends, right? You have to budget for those dividends, and we charge lower rates on loans. So we operate at a smaller margin. But we can do that because we're not for profit. We need to make enough profit to build our capital as we grow. That's important. But we can operate more efficiently at a thinner margin because of our focus. We don't have to pay dividends to shareholders. We pay dividends to members.
Okay. In our environment, which might be different from your case, you find most of the credit unions that, not just in Kenya, but a significant number of credit unions don't have a very good capital base, yet they're paying high dividends.
Yes.
And dividends of 10% of their deposits.
Yeah.
What's your advice to that kind of model?
It's very important you have a asset liability management plan and a capital plan. You need a core base of capital, and if your SACCO is going to grow, then that capital has to grow. And so you need to pay dividends based on what's sustainable financially, not based on what might look attractive as a rate.
So what are some of the scenarios that will make the regulator try to control the dividend rates that your credit union pays?
Well, if your capital is declining, then that's when they start to get involved. Now, if you have a high enough capital base and you have a plan that says we're going to pay these higher rates for this period of time, and we understand it might reduce our capital for a period of time, maybe. But you have to have a plan because you have to maintain capital levels that are considered safe and sound and that ensure the future health of the cooperative. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. SchoolsFirst is a well-known credit union globally, and SchoolsFirst is very unique, and not just because of your numbers, but just as you often say, how you engage with the community. For you, what makes SchoolsFirst stand out, not just in America?
Right.
I mean, most people in Africa now know SchoolsFirst.
Oh,
Yeah. So
we've been honored to visit SACCOs in Africa, and we've been honored to host SACCOs at our credit union. So thank you.
Yeah, but what makes SchoolsFirst stand special?
You know, we just celebrated our 90th anniversary in June, and it's a 90-year focus on serving school employees and their family members. We've expanded geographically outside of our little city of Santa Ana, where we started in California. Now we serve the entire state of California. The vision of our board is to be the preeminent financial services firm for the nation's educational community. So someday, probably long after I'm gone, we want to be a national school employee credit union. But that focus on school employees, who we serve and how we serve them, hasn't changed for 90 years, and I think that's special.
Okay, and I know you don't, from what I hear, you don't do much marketing.
We don't do any sort of advertising in a traditional sense, and we don't market really outside of our cooperative. We market to our members in the sense that they need to know what products and services that we offer, but we're talking to them, right? And so money that we might spend on advertising, which would be millions of dollars if we wanted to do that, we spend on supporting schools and colleges and universities. We spend it on supporting the credit union movement, whether it's the COSCA or the Africa Cooperative Development Foundation or the worldwide foundations of credit unions or the National Credit Union Foundation. we use that money to help improve our community as opposed to advertise our services, because our members really do the advertising. They do the word of mouth.
Yes, so in that case, you're using that as a way of engaging with the community. That's a benefit you get
Yes.
from that.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly. That gives us access to potential members. So we support a school district or a university, and in exchange, because of our partnership, we have the ability to have access to talk to their employees about joining the credit union.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you for helping us tell the story
Absolutely.
of credit union, particularly when you continuously amplify the voices of the credit union leaders. What advice would you give those who are not prepared, or those who should just find in themselves the need to either celebrate or find a way of using the SACCO or the credit union model in their space?
If we can coordinate our messaging and even some of our collateral materials, that makes the message, that amplifies the voices when we're working together. I'm really excited about it at our credit union, and I'm excited about it for the credit movement.
Thank you, Bill Cheney. It was nice
Thank you.
having Bill Cheney in this SACCO Insight, one of the great leaders in the credit union system globally. We have him not because of his institution, but because he has the values of the credit union system. He believes and is passionate about people getting empowered to the credit union model. Thank you.